Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to part 10 of my Dardennes brother season. Obviously it's been a while since I've did part 9 because the Dardennes hadn't had a new film out, but they do now. It's from 2022 and it's Tori and Lokita. I didn't realise the Dardennes had another film out until I realised they had a new film out. This is just your bog standard Blu-ray, unbelievable, not a special boutique or anything like that. It's crazy. After the disappointment and controversy of Young Ahmed, I think this is 3 years later, and as I said, I wasn't even aware of it. Not that that means anything, because I'm usually not aware of much in the film world. But this is perhaps them taking stock and going back to the roots almost. We're back in that same Belgian town, and if you're unfamiliar with the Dardennes style or lack thereof, there's lots of handheld, no music. A couple of characters do sing songs with not much accompaniment, and there's music over the end titles, which is controversial in itself for the Dardennes. I remember the first one of their films actually had music over the end titles. It was shocking. So this time we focus on a couple of immigrants from Africa, an unnamed African country, a little boy and an older woman who is, or claiming to be his sister. We're not quite sure whether she is his sister or not. He's kind of coaching her on answers that would help her get her papers, because she wants to be a home help, and obviously care for her brother, who apparently was in an orphanage because he was taken away because he was a sorcerer's child. Obviously in Africa there are some strange beliefs. I mean, in certain African countries, I believe you can get incarcerated in a mental hospital if you don't believe in God. So he's in this orphanage because he may have strange powers, or people believe that he has strange powers. But they've been smuggled through from Italy into Belgium. He has his papers, he being Tori, and Lokita doesn't have papers, but she's going through interviews to prove that he's his sister. I mean, at one point after the interviews, they do say, well, maybe just get DNA samples. I don't know why they just didn't do that at the beginning. But in the meantime, they are struggling for money, so they are working for a chef whose side order, if you will, is drug dealing. Lokita is just trying to survive and help Tori out. The people that smuggled them into Belgium and the same Belgian town that most of the Dardennes films take place. I mean, also the Belgian Tourist Board probably don't like it when a new Dardennes film comes out. But the people who claim to be from the church, which is kind of ironic in itself, they're wanting Lokita to give them money to pay back for smuggling them in. Lokita is trying to make money to send back to her mother so her 5 brothers can get an education. So Lokita is kind of assaulted on all fronts for money, or in the case of the chef, sexual favours for extra money. And then when more pressure is put on her She agrees, obviously begrudgingly, to end up going to a marijuana farm and spend 3 months away from Tori, essentially paying back the money to get fake papers so she can stay with Tori. Now, obviously, however you feel about immigration and illegal immigrants, that doesn't really matter. They're two human beings, and we are following them on their journey to try and make something of themselves. Tori got his papers because there was proof that he was persecuted as a sorcerer's child. But obviously Lokita needs to prove that she's Tori's sister. There's a real bond between the two, even though they're not perfect. They are dealing drugs as well for the chef slash drug dealer and his friends, but she's essentially in prison in this marijuana farm, where she's not allowed to contact Tori. She has anxiety, not surprisingly, but she does have medication for it. And then things develop, which I'm not going to go into, but in typical Dardennes fashion, it's all about choices and decisions and the consequences for those decisions, how it affects the ones close to you and also the people around you. And obviously the chef and his associate at the drug farm are fairly one-dimensional. They're fairly villainous. There's not much depth to those characters. That perhaps in earlier Dardennes films we maybe saw a little bit more of a three-dimensional character, even if people are doing terrible things. The father in not their first film, but their first kind of film as the Dardennes. Obviously they made 2 or 3 films before that, before they kind of found their style, or lack thereof. The father in La Promesse, he does terrible things. He gets immigrants in, but there's a reason why he's doing that, and we find out what that reason is. So even though he's a not very nice person, we at least have a reason for that, whereas the drug dealers are just kind of, these are terrible people. The chef, again, pays Lokita for sexual favours, and at one point essentially forces her to do sexual acts. So they're not particularly well rounded characters. But Tori and Lokita, as I say, it's very difficult not to root for them while terrible things are being done to them. Obviously, if you have certain beliefs about immigration, then you might not look at the film in the same way, as far as somebody who, certainly in Tori's case, persecuted, so that's why he's ended up in Belgium. But it's good that regardless of skin colour, there's a few people out to exploit them and take their money whenever they can, especially obviously the chef and the drug dealers and the people who are claiming to be from the church. They put pressure on both Tori and Lokita to give them money however they manage to get it. So in typical Dardennes fashion, it's only about 88 minutes. Again, a Dardennes film of 2.5 hours would just be too much. Again, if you haven't watched one for a while, it takes you 5 minutes to get into the routine of the Dardennes, handheld and not theatrical in the least. Again, perhaps not as flighty or big-brained as Bresson, but certainly a progeny of Bresson, perhaps, just in their way of approaching film, shooting in that kind of documentary type way. But again, with the Dardennes at their best, it's about the characters they create, the world they create. And certainly, I would say Tori and Lokita isn't top class Dardennes. It's not 2 days, 1 night or anything like that. But it's certainly that old cliche, perhaps a return to form after young Ahmed. I mean, I still give them a ton of credit for doing young Ahmed. It's a controversial subject about a young Muslim, and whether it was successful or not, they at least did it. Whereas there's plenty of filmmakers that don't go anywhere near that subject. The same way there's lots of filmmakers that don't go near the subject of immigration. But this is another really good Dardennes film. Again, perhaps not top-notch Dardennes, but they're getting on a bit, and if this is their last film, it's a much better way of going out than perhaps young Ahmed. So part 10 of the Dardennes series, obviously it's taken a long time to get to this point. As I said, it was a complete surprise when I actually saw it, and hang on a second, that's Jean-Pierre and Luc Dardenne, and they didn't even tell me, they didn't even send me a postcard saying they'd released a new film. So thanks very much for watching this review of the latest Dardennes film. Please let me know in the comments if you've seen Tori and Lokita. Try to recover from the shock that's this week. I've talked about a film from 2021 and then this is from 2022. I mean, for goodness sake, what's next? A film from 2023? I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. So thanks so much for watching. Please leave comments below of any kind, and hopefully you'll join me again soon. This is Solid Ronan from Solid Ronan Films, saying farewell.